Pack it up. Pack it in. Let us begin. Coming to you live now from the Blaze Radio Studios, Blaze Radio Online. We are here and ready to go. It is bottom of the 6th, the 3 for 60 edition. It is a Wednesday. I'm not even going to get to introductions. We've already got breaking news as we head into the radio studio here. I was talking about it on the last show. Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has just been traded. I cannot believe it. Finally, it has happened. We could take Jimmy Butler's name out of trade talks. It's over. Done deal. He is heading to Golden State. The Golden State Warriors are finalizing a deal to send Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and a protected first-round pick to Miami. The Heat are going to deal Jimmy Butler to Golden State. Steph Curry finally has some help there. I mean, he had help before, but finally does get an elite name around him. Jimmy Butler is now a member of the Golden State Warriors. Traver Cox, Sebastian Friar, AJ Goncalves here from the Bill Austin Radio Studio with instant breakdown to this trade that just happened. A lot of big NBA news. We're going to get to that. A lot of NFL stuff we want to get to. We'll make our awards picks because the award show is happening tomorrow. So we'll do that. But first, gentlemen, how you doing today?
Good. And I mean, I'll just talk right about that
Perfect.
Jimmy Butler trade. I mean,
That's
I
the way I
literally
love
just
it.
found out about it as I walked into the studio. So, I mean, I think the big part for the Warriors is not only do they get a piece this year that could potentially help them, I don't know if they're going to contend for a championship, but maybe get up out of the play-in, maybe win a playoff series and actually, put up a good fight in the West instead of just what they were last year. I think the big story here for the Warriors is you keep Kuminga and Pods, and that's huge for your team because now you can run Steph Curry, Pajemski, Butler, Kuminga, Trey Jackson-Davis. And that's like a real starting five that I feel like could compete in the Western Conference. The depth's still a little questionable, especially with a couple of the other players who are giving up here. Schroeder, Kyle Anderson's even been decent for them this year. But I think this is definitely immediate reactions. I give this like a B+ for the Warriors just because you have to do something to try to keep Steph Curry happy right now. I mean, he's old and he's still putting up crazy numbers. You got to try to get him some type of help. You can't just, throw him out there with all the young guys and expect him to do something incredible like 2022.
Well, this was just a little bit of a weird trade to me. I mean, I expected Jimmy Butler to be a slam dunk to the Phoenix Suns because that's a team that really needed to make a move to really thread the needle or move something around because something is not quite working there.
Whoa. Sorry, hold on. I don't know what happened. That wasn't even me, man.
Hey, no worries, AJ, it happens. But
what the hell?
Yeah, obviously, Jimmy Butler going to the Warriors, it's surprising but not surprising. We found out, obviously, this morning that Kevin Durant said, no, I do not want to be a Golden State Warrior. And I think that's when the Warriors quickly made a move to Miami. They knew they had to do something to keep Steph Curry there happy.
Yeah,
and we have to go get a guy like Jimmy Butler. Are the Warriors a championship contender in my eyes? Absolutely not. I really just don't see it. Even from a Jimmy Butler perspective, it's kind of an interesting move because obviously he moves from the Miami Heat because he believes he can no longer win a championship there or get out of the East while he's done it multiple times there. He goes to Golden State. I mean, Steph Curry's a better player, don't get me wrong, than any of the players the Heat have right now alongside him. But, the Western Conference could be a tougher conference to really compete or even move along in the playoffs to even get past the first round or the play-in. There's a lot of teams in competition. The Heat, they really didn't get much back. Andrew Wiggins, solid little player you got there. They're better. Both teams probably got better from this trade because Jimmy Butler wasn't playing with the Heat. And, the players the Warriors gave up were kind of the problems there in Golden State, why things weren't working out. So I think it's a pretty fair trade by both sides. Really doesn't move the needle to me. I don't think more of the Heat. I don't think more of the Warriors now. It's just a trade that happened, and I just don't think it'll have major implications down the line in terms of a championship aspect of it.
I agree.
Yeah, and Butler just agreed to a 2-year deal with this trade, too. He is going to be in Golden State for the next 2 years at least. Love the trade for Golden State. They needed to do something with Steph Curry. If you've listened to Steph Curry in recent weeks through his pressers, through anything, he said he doesn't want the franchise to get too risky and give up too much. I think this is the perfect balance of it. I don't know what the deal is with Pat Riley either. I mean, NBA Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it, no doubt. But he got smoked here. He absolutely did. If he traded him earlier, he probably could have gotten more. He waited until the situation progressively got worse. And what are you left with? You're left with Dennis Schroeder. That's what you're left with for Jimmy Butler, who in his peak is one of the best players in basketball. So you get nothing out of it, and you lose Jimmy Butler. That's a tough look for your franchise. Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a guy I want to get to. It's my opening take. I was going to come in here with an opening take, but Jimmy Butler decided to ruin it. So I'll give the trade an A- B+. Kevin Durant is a guy that I'm looking at. Do the Phoenix Suns now maybe look at making a move? That's number one. His name's been floated around out there the past few days. It's either he stays in Phoenix or he goes to the Miami Heat now. Those are the two things that were talked about. If I'm Kevin Durant, I would stay in Phoenix. It doesn't make any sense for him to go to the Miami Heat. If he does, I wouldn't like it personally as a Celtics fan because that just feels like it's a star is going to join them. Miami's a great spot, and if you put a guy like Kevin Durant there, a star will find a way to get to him. Maybe not this year at the deadline, but maybe next year in the offseason. Someone will join him.
This is a 5-team trade as well.
Oh, really?
Schroeder's going to the Jazz, and Kyle Anderson's going to the Raptors.
So it's mainly Andrew Wiggins going to Miami.
It's Andrew Wiggins, PJ Tucker, and a protected first.
So, yeah, a lot of moving pieces there, obviously. Going back to your Kevin Durant point right there, obviously the Phoenix Suns, let's be real, they're not getting anywhere near a championship right now as the roster is currently constructed. Kevin Durant, it's kind of interesting. Obviously, their latest rumor was a trade involving Paul George, Jimmy Butler, and Kevin Durant. Obviously, that is dead after Jimmy Butler gets traded. So, especially with Paul George also playing tonight as we are currently speaking, I think Kevin Durant does end up staying with the Suns. I just think the Suns are a little bit of a stubborn franchise, and they want to prove this Bradley Beal trade to be right. I think they're going to try to give it one more go at it. They're going to try to keep their franchise excited. We got Kevin Durant here. We got Devin Booker. We got Bradley Beal. Come to the arena. Come, support us through this, playoff or postseason push. But I think the Suns this offseason are going to really have to ask some serious questions about themselves, and I think the Suns is going to be one of those teams that are very close to blowing it all up.
What do you think about Devin Booker?
I think Devin Booker's not a guy that's going to lead your franchise, as a number one. I think we saw it before he got multiple stars to play with him. Guys like Chris Paul coming in, the Suns were really irrelevant while Devin Booker was their main piece. If I'm the Suns, I truly will look to blow it up because I just don't think right now guys in the league, really the superstars, are really excited to go play with Devin Booker. They're not like, okay, I can win a championship with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. I just don't see it that way. I think Devin Booker is a nice compliment piece, but I just don't think he's one of the superstars in the league.
Yeah, you got any thoughts?
I definitely agree with that. I mean, we saw what the Booker-led Suns, I think we saw their ceiling when they went to the finals, and you could really argue whether or not he was the best player on that team. I mean, he was, but Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, even Mikal Bridges, he had a lot of pieces around him. Yeah, I don't really know if he can be a 1A on a title team. So we'll see what happens with Kevin Durant, but I think Booker's here to stay. The Valley loves him too much.
Okay, that's my opening take. You guys got opening takes today? I know we kind of got thrown off a bit by this Butler trade, and that happened. Do you guys have any takes you want to get off your chest here to start us out?
I was going to get a little takeout about what are the Bucks doing trading Chris Middleton, but, I mean, it makes sense now. I just saw that puts them below the second apron and makes one of their future first tradable again. I think my opening takeaway from this will be, what is the NBA doing with all these new financial rules? Because it just makes these random trades that nobody really cares about. Like the Kuzma trade, now they're $300K below the second apron. So now they have their first-round pick available to trade. So I guess it's a good strategic move. Like, I don't really know how to analyze it at this point because of all the cap rules. And another one was Daniel Tice going to the Thunder just so the Pelicans could get out of luxury tax. I mean, yeah, I think the financial rules need to be revised a little bit. Maybe, I don't know how to say it, lowered a little bit because it feels like the penalties are too high right now. No teams are willing to go into the second apron. I mean, of course, no one's going to want to not be able to trade their first-round picks.
I mean, it creates really awkward situations.
Exactly.
Like the Sixers traded KJ Martin and 2 second-round picks, and the Sixers still don't know what they're going to get back from the Pistons yet. They just traded that away.
Just to get the salary.
Exactly. It's all to get under the luxury tax because the owners don't really want to pay it. Josh Harris, he's been dealing with that like forever, and the Sixers always seem to do the same type of moves, stay under the luxury tax, and then get rid of all this depth you have, which is not bad because they're a young team. But it does create these awkward trades that are like, what is going on? Like Kyle Kuzma to the Bucks. Yeah. I just don't see that really making sense for either side.
At all.
I mean, the Wizards, yes, finally. You get out of Kyle Kuzma's contract. Kyle
Kuzma.
You have
Chris Middleton.
I mean, I don't want to come out and say a guy sucks, but Kyle Kuzma, in my opinion, kind of sucks. He's just not a good player whatsoever. Chris Middleton, at least you won a championship there with him with Milwaukee. I just don't think Kyle Kuzma really makes the Bucks better. Maybe bigger. Maybe they want to play him at forward. Maybe if Middleton was, getting older, he's not as good as he used to be. But I just think the Bucks should have made a different type of move. But I guess that's kind of what the word around the league was. We don't really want Chris Middleton, so, just trade him for what you can get back. And I just don't think Kyle Kuzma is a very good player straight up.
I think you guys were talking about the aprons. I think that's an important take here as well. The Doncic trade. Let's go back to that, right? I mean, I know I sound like the broken drum, but the thing that's interesting to me about it now is that I continue to sit around and break this thing down. LeBron James wasn't involved in this deal. He wasn't involved. He had no idea, which I think is important here because it's along with the aprons that you guys mentioned. There's big penalties for those, but the thing that's interesting is the player empowerment in the NBA. I think those days are done. I think it's over. LeBron not being involved. I mean, LeBron James is the biggest name in basketball. That's not debatable. In the past, we've
maybe
seen
in American sports right now.
Okay, I'm willing to listen to that. I think maybe one of the biggest influences in the world, if you ask me. LeBron wasn't involved. He's been a power broker in the NBA for years and years. Go look at the Miami Heat. Go look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, and go look at the first run around in LA. The owner empowerment is back. The NBA player empowerment, dead. I think it's buried. I think the players messed it up for themselves. But I think the real reason about this Luka Doncic trade, which is interesting, is some of these owners are cheap. They're cheap. Let me say it again.
They only care about making money. That's the end of the day.
They're
That's
cheap.
what this trade tells me from a Mavericks perspective. They don't care about winning games. All they care about is how many dollar signs they're going to make. If they can avoid paying Luka, $350 million or whatever he was due this summer, then they're going to do that.
Yeah, and you're going to save that money to go build a new arena. It makes total sense to me now why they would do it.
It does.
Do you have an opening take today, Seabass?
Well, in terms of opening takes, obviously, staying in a little bit of the NBA world, it's kind of interesting all these moves that have happened because I feel like the NBA changed kind of since the Nuggets won the championship. It kind of moved away from the Big Three era, and instead of let's build a complete basketball team. Exactly, parity. Let's build two great stars, put them together, and build a ton of great depth instead of trying to force that way to get the third star and really sacrifice all of our depth. We saw it not work out with the Brooklyn Nets.
Clippers,
Suns. Exactly, Suns. And now we see teams, having a lot of success. Like even the Toronto Raptors when they won back in 2019. It was all about the great depth around Kawhi Leonard. The Nuggets, all the great depth and clutch shooting they have from Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Celtics, another team, you have two very good players, don't get me wrong, with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But let's be real, they're not the biggest names in the NBA. You just surrounded them with a ton of great depth, built such a complete roster, and you dominate your way through the playoffs on your way to winning another NBA championship. So I think the way teams are trying to build nowadays is let me get great depth and just one or two stars to really build that great depth around.
And guys who know how to play their role. I think Derek White's a great example.
And guys who actually play basketball every night.
Yeah,
exactly. You may not be a Tatum fan, you may not be a Brown fan, but the thing that's true and the commonality is they play basketball. They do. They're out there almost every night. Tatum's out. Okay, that's another one.
You're looking at me.
No. I'm just saying it for example.
You're
the first person I'm looking at. You want me to really turn it on? He knows. He knows.
Embiid is out again tonight, but Paul George is back. They're all turning. Paul George plays tonight, and Embiid will play Friday.
He knows. He knows it. He knows that's the truth, though. So okay.
Hey, he got a triple-double last night.
Do you guys have any other NBA thoughts?
Jokic has triple-doubles in his sleep, bro.
All right, let's move on to NFL awards.
I was going to say, deadline's tomorrow for the NBA, right?
Yep, tomorrow.
Okay, so we'll see what happens.
I don't know. Do you guys think Kevin Durant's going to get moved?
I say no. That's my vote.
No chance. I don't see it just because I think Ishiba's stuck up. I think he's stuck up in his ways. You won't trade him.
I definitely agree.
Okay. NFL Super Bowl is Sunday. Super Bowl is Sunday. I can't wait for it. It's going to be an awesome game, I think. Strength and strength there. Eagles O-line, Chiefs D-line. Chiefs O-line, Eagles D-line. I can do a whole hour show on that. The quarterbacks.
Which we will on Saturday.
Oh, Saturday, folks. I didn't even preview this yet. Saturday, Spotify, be there. An hour of Super Bowl talk. We are going to get you ready for the game like no one else can. Saturday, too, so we'll have time to really think about takes, really think about strategy, really think about bets for this game. We're going to give you the good stuff, okay? Don't trust ESPN. Those guys don't know what they're talking about.
They
3
want
for
you to
60.
lose money.
Yeah, 3 for 60. We want you to win money. We want you to beat the books. ESPN, fraudulent, totally fraudulent. They want you to lose money.
They are the book.
ESPN Bet. They have their own sports book now.
How can you trust them? They are the book.
I wouldn't trust them with anything, really. I wouldn't trust them with a house. I wouldn't trust them with anything. But seriously, NFL. You guys have any thoughts for me today? We'll do our NFL awards segment to end our show today. How about that?
NFL thoughts. I've been seeing some of the clips out of Media Day of Jameis Winston interviewing players. I thought those have been pretty funny. I guess that's one of my takeaways from this week. All the content out of Media Row at the Super Bowl has been great. Most of it that I've seen.
The kind of funniest part to me this week was when Jameis Winston asked which team, could use a free agent quarterback, and Saquon's like, yeah, I think the Giants could use a quarterback over there. I love these personal jabs that Saquon Barkley sticking at the New York Giants. It is hilarious to me all week. I know New York Giants fans are suffering so much throughout the whole season, not only because their team just completely sunk it up on the field, but because their rival Philadelphia Eagles, with one of the best players that really has stepped the field in their own uniform, Saquon Barkley goes over to them, and they're on quite a roll right now, on their way to potentially winning a Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think it's super hilarious, Saquon Barkley just taking those personal jabs at the New York Giants.
Yeah, it's funny both ways. Winston, I think he's got a career in media waiting for him.
Definitely does.
He had the line of the decade.
Clips of him building up the question. You've been doing this for so many years with the Chiefs, so the people really want to know. What's your favorite color?
Yeah, he's kind of fun. I'm telling
He's
you.
just a character, man.
That
He's
press
very
conference changed the
charismatic.
whole thing. I just need the Lord to deliver me from stop throwing pick sixes. That was awesome.
That was awesome.
That's probably the best line I've heard in sports in
I think
like
that was
years.
the turning point of his public image for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
And Barkley? Oh my God. What would it be if he went to the Super Bowl and went crazy? Oh, my God. How would you feel if you're a Giants fan? Oh, that would be funny. I love to see the Giants cry for what they did to my team back in the day. But, no, I want to talk about the Super Bowl, right? I mean, we're going to do a whole preview on Saturday, but Jalen Hurts. This game comes down to Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
And there's people.
it always comes down to quarterbacks.
And there's people telling me, it's going to come down to the defense. It's going to come down to their corners being able to stop the Kansas City wide receivers and stop Travis Kelce a little bit. But at the end of the day, if the Eagles want to win the game, like Jalen Hurts is going to have to play a repeat of what he did.
Mahomes.
Yeah, and
That's
he's
just
going
not gonna happen.
It's not going to happen. So, again, the Eagle fans, you guys are driving me nuts. I'm having trouble picking a side in this Super Bowl because on one side I have Taylor Swift, who is really becoming intolerable at this point. Travis Kelce, well, maybe he already has in some people's eyes. Travis Kelce, who is a man of like different voices. I don't understand. It's like when he talks to the media, he speaks one way. When he talks to his family, he speaks another way.
Oh, that's just because he's media trained.
Okay,
I don't feel like that's really his fault.
I mean, like he puts on a different voice. Like
there's no doubt about it.
he puts on.
Have you
Can I say a black voice? He puts on a black voice.
He does,
it's
but
kind
I
of
think it's
annoying.
because of where he grew up.
Okay.
And who he grew up around. I don't think that's really something he chooses to do.
I would just I'm a guy who likes a guy who's won a personality. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you have a personality, you
Just
stick to it and
it,
stop being
like
fake.
Patrick Mahomes.
Chris Jones has called him out for it on that too, the fake voices. But I just think the Super Bowl is so intolerable for so many reasons. But the more annoying fan base to me is the Philadelphia Eagles.
I disagree. I usually would agree with you if you're talking bad about Philly sports fans, but man, Chiefs fan base has just been so insufferable.
Well,
Maybe
you
it's
are
just
a
because I'm a
Broncos
Broncos fan,
Yeah.
but they've been so insufferable ever since they got Mahomes. Maybe it's just because they beat us like 16 times or something in a row, but man, I am rooting with all of my heart for the Eagles.
Well, you guys, I think Jalen Hurts is going to play a heck of a game. I'm not going to lie. I really do predict that. I think he's going to come ready to play.
I don't know if he is. I think A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith could have great
Well, we
games.
saw it 2 years ago. He was the best player on the field on both sides. Arguably, he should have won Super Bowl MVP the way he played. So it's going to come down to... Yeah, it's going to come down to who wins the turnover battle, in my opinion. Who makes the less mistakes, who takes care of that football, because points are going to be put up on that scoreboard. It's going to be a high-scoring game. So at the end of the day, if you can take care of the football, if you can go up and down the field, and whoever gets the ball last, chance to score with a couple seconds left or get yourself in field goal range, like we saw pretty much in the Super Bowl they played 2 years ago. It came down to a game-winning kick by Butker. That's going to really determine who wins this game. This is going to be such an awesome game. They're so evenly matched. Two great offenses, two great defenses.
Yeah.
I think points are going to be put up on the board, though, and I think both quarterbacks are going to be ready to play.
And though, the whole narrative about this being, a matchup between two of America's most hated teams, I really feel like this is going to be a great game.
Absolutely.
No matter which way you shape it.
100%.
I feel like this is the Super Bowl.
I'm
The
pumped.
fans deserve
I'm
it.
so pumped.
I'm actually very excited to watch this football game. Just as a football fan, As a Broncos fan, it's going to hurt me because I feel like the Chiefs are probably going to win. But as a football fan, I am getting pumped for the game, and I'm really excited.
As much as I hate the fan bases in both these games, the teams on the field are absolutely superb, and you've got the two best teams here in the NFL. I don't think that's
two
even
best teams in the world.
Yeah, I don't even think that's debatable. So it's going to be a good Super Bowl. It's time to do the franchise rebuild again. We've done that before. We did it Monday. We did the Tennessee Titans. So I've timed it out. We will hit every team before draft day if we continue on this pace. So if we do it today, you guys cool to do that right now? Okay. Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are the second. They're picking second. We did the Titans on Monday. They're picking first. The Browns are picking second. Myles Garrett just requested a trade. So there's a lot to work with this Cleveland Browns team. Do you have any takes on what the Browns should do here to start out their rebuild?
First of all, I would honor Myles Garrett and his trade request. I would trade him away to a team in the NFC who will offer me multiple first-round picks because that will help accelerate the rebuild. You already have the second overall pick, which I think you can probably use to replace Myles Garrett, get Abdul Carter right away. And I think the Browns really should hit a little bit of a reset here. Denzel Ward, another guy I would look to potentially trade away. I know Kevin Stefanski's there. They put the vote and confidence in him. They want to get back to where they were 2 years ago. But if I'm being real, I think that was more of a fluky run than what we saw last year because they had like 4 different starting quarterbacks. Joe Flacco comes in and plays great ball for them. I just don't think that's really going to be able to really replicate. So I would trade away a lot of the veterans. Guys like even Jerry Jeudy. They have a lot of trade value potentially. Stock up on picks. And I think if the Browns can hit a quick reset, especially with next year's quarterback class, I see a lot of potential great names. Arch Manning coming out potentially. I love him as a prospect. Nico, we'll see about him in Tennessee. I don't know about him for now. But I think the Cleveland Browns can really stock up on that roster, get a guy like Abdul Carter at the top, get another couple of first-round picks, and really start building that roster really quickly with a lot of young talent and really start turning the page because that Deshaun Watson trade simply hurt them too much as a franchise, and they're not going to be able to bounce back from that with this current core they have.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think you have to hit the reset button again, as painful as it may be, for the front office, coaches, and fans. You're just really not in a position to compete with this current roster, and trading Myles Garrett's a great way of doing that. I mean, like you said, you could potentially get multiple first-round picks for this guy, and that could help jumpstart your rebuild. I think, they have multiple pieces on the offensive line that are getting up there in age. Wyatt Teller's 30. Ethan Poshich is almost 30. Joe Bitonio's 33. These are guys that are getting up there. You need to try to get value out of them while you can. Reset. Really try to bring in a new culture to this Browns team. And I say you just, sit back and wait a little bit while you wait out this Deshaun Watson contract, lose games, and keep building. And if I'm at 2, don't take a quarterback this year. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes they can make. You either take Hunter if he's available. If he's not, then you take Abdul Carter. I would even argue for maybe Abdul Carter over Hunter, especially
replace Myles Garrett right away.
Especially if they lose Myles Garrett. Yep, exactly like you said. So, yeah, that would be my offseason plan if I was the Browns.
Okay, I've got a slightly bigger plan. We're definitely going to honor that Myles Garrett trade request. We're going to hope somebody in the NFC gives us maybe a first and something for Myles Garrett, which I think you'll obviously get. Denzel Ward, another one. I would trade him in a heartbeat. You saw what happened with Marshawn Lattimore. He fell from grace so fast. I would trade Denzel Ward, too. I think corners have a limited shelf life. Joel Bitonio on the offensive line. He's one of their elite guys. If he doesn't want to be there, like he said, if they're going to rebuild, that he wants out, you're going to let him out. You're going to get it. You're going to get a draft pick for him. You're going to get right back at this thing. Quarterback. This is the key for the team. Deshaun Watson, that's the worst contract in sports. Maybe the worst trade in sports right now going. Kirk Cousins is a guy I'm looking at.
Brother, the Luka Doncic trade happened not even a week ago.
I would argue that the Deshaun Watson
way
trade
worse.
is worse.
It may be just because of how much capital.
At least they got Anthony Davis back.
Yeah, exactly.
At least you got Anthony, a top 10 player in basketball.
They let Baker Mayfield go in that process too. So I mean, the whole trajectory of that trade was the worst trade I've ever seen, and probably will ever see in my whole life.
I definitely can't disagree.
Okay, yeah. So worst trade I've ever seen.
On that Luka trade.
I don't know what you do with Deshaun Watson. I really don't. Do you want to cut him?
You got to wait it out.
You can't cut him. You're just going to play the dead money.
Him all the money.
Yeah. So I guess you're going to have to hold him on the roster. I don't know.
Maybe put him on the practice squad.
I'm open to cutting him though. I think it's more important for us to play against him.
I just don't know if they have the cap to do that.
It's such a distraction having him on the bench too. By the way, did I tell you that? Kirk Cousins. This is the guy for Kevin Stefanski. Guy who's familiar with. He needs a bridge for at least a year or two because you guys mentioned it. The QBs in this class. Shadur Sanders, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart. Meh.
I'm high on Cam Ward, but
okay, I think he's going to be gone though. From what we said, on Monday, Kirk Cousins is going to be the guy for me. We don't need any playmakers. I really don't think. Maybe another running back because we don't know what Nick Chubb's going to be next year. Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, those guys really impressed me last year. And from there, we're taking Abdul Carter. Not a hard one. Don't overthink it. I mean, if you want to give him to the Patriots, I mean, please do. Abdul Carter, that's the guy I'm going to take there. I'm going to rebuild that defense. We're going to be a defense run-first team. AFC North, we're going to beat them the way it's supposed to be done. That's running the football and playing defense. Yeah, there's your Cleveland Browns rebuild.
A deep running back class also. I love that you mentioned the running back room, especially Nick Chubb. He unfortunately did not look good. He broke his foot later on in the season as well. So I think they can really rebuild that running back room very quickly. And you even got guys like Njoku and Jerry Jeudy. If you want to bring in a younger quarterback also to play with them, you got weapons there.
For sure. Do we want to get into awards?
Yeah. Did you want to lead the segment, Traver? You got it, man.
I guess I will lead it. We can get into the least interesting to most interesting. So we'll start out with Coach of the Year. Finalists are Dan Campbell, O'Connell, Sean Payton, Dan Quinn, and Andy Reid. I feel like it's pretty obvious who's going to win this award this year. I'll say my pick, Kevin O'Connell, 14-3 with that Vikings roster. So.
Sam Darnold, you got a chance to get the number 1 seed at the final week of the season as well. Kevin O'Connell for sure gets my vote.
So the award is best coaching performance, obviously, from the year. If it's best coach in the league, it's a different discussion. But the best coaching performance this year, it had to have been Kevin O'Connell with the
100%.
Vikings.
Yeah,
No discussion.
We'll get right into comeback player of the year: Joe Burrow, Sam Darnold, J.K. Dobbins, Christian Gonzalez, and DeMar Hamlin. I'm going to take Joe Burrow with the year he had. MVP caliber season, just didn't have the defense and pieces around him. And because he broke his wrist at the end of last year, and he's a very popular quarterback, I feel like he's going to win the award.
I mean, technically, Joe Burrow did have the best season, among these type of players. If I probably had to pick, truly, I think Joe Burrow, just a little wrist injury. Joe Burrow was always awesome. I would probably pick Sam Darnold personally, because Sam Darnold, let's be real, nobody expected this from Sam Darnold.
I just feel like Joe Burrow's going to win it.
He is going to win it, and I think we expected this from Joe Burrow, in my opinion. I mean, nobody's surprised by the season he had, but everybody's wowed by Sam Darnold. So my personal vote would go to Sam Darnold, but Joe Burrow's going to win it.
Joe Burrow, easy.
Yeah, we'll do Defensive Rookie of the Year. The finalists are Cooper Jean, Braden Fisk, Quinyon Mitchell, Chop Robinson, Jared Verse. It's Jared Verse, top 10 in the league in pressures, one of the best pass rushers already in the league.
Jared Verse, I mean, he might be in top 5 Defensive Player of the Year conversations. What a rookie year did he have? Huge difference maker for that Rams defensive line.
Did I hear Fisk and Verse? That's 2 Rams? Okay,
Yeah.
Good drafting there for Les Snead. Jared Verse.
Yeah, Offensive Rookie of the Year, it's Bowers, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Bo Nix, Brian Thomas Jr. This one feels obvious again.
Jaden Daniels all around.
No discussion.
Yeah.
If Offensive Player of the Year, once again, feels pretty obvious here. Saquon Barkley.
Easy.
Saquon Barkley.
But we can get into the real meat on the bone here, maybe. Defensive Player of the Year, I got Patrick Surtain. I don't feel like it's really close.
What are the options for this one?
Zach Bond, Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, and T.J. Watt are the other finalists.
Surtain probably locked it up with his matchup against Jamar Chase. I think he did a phenomenal job with that, so my vote would go for Pat Surtain. Trey Hendrickson would be a close second for me.
Hendrickson had a great year. I think that's going to get underrated in a lot of this, even on Cincinnati, who were awful. But Surtain he's obviously the best corner in the league. I wish he was on my team.
Yeah, and then we can go right into it. MVP. I think it's Lamar Jackson. He had one of the best quarterback seasons I've ever seen in my life.
Lamar Jackson, unbelievable player, best regular season quarterback this year, no doubt about it.
Jackson. What was the ratio? 41-4?
Yeah.
I think that was his ratio.
Stupid, yeah.
Okay, so I'll take that guy. Again, you Josh Allen people, you guys make me angry. Along with Eagles fans and Chiefs fans.
Books say I don't care if Josh Allen's a favorite. Lamar Jackson.
I think Jackson is the favorite now. He has to
They're
be.
going first team All-Pro. He's the favorite now.
He has to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
I'll shift it dramatically after that.
Dude, quick last
That's
takes.
the same voters.
You guys have any quick last takes?
No last takes. If Surtain doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year, you'll see me on the streets of Phoenix.
Same thing if Lamar Jackson doesn't win MVP.
Waste Management Open. Give me Scotty Scheffler right now. I'm not even going to debate that.
I'm taking Rory.
Okay. You got a pick too? No?
Rory.
Okay. Perfect. Hey, Masters season's coming up, man. That's when I come into the show with my golf clubs, my Masters hat. We're gonna have a whole thing for that.
Shout out Jim Nance.
Yeah, shout out Jim Nance. That's right. I haven't heard that name in a minute. Ever since Tony Romo was blowing the call there in the AFC title game. So, with that being said, that's going to do it for us this week. It always flies by in here. I don't know why. We'll be back Saturday. Super Bowl predictions. I'll have everything for you. We'll have a super podcast for Super Sunday. Then we'll be back Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're going to get back to that schedule. I promise. Things are just busy right now between all three of us. So, with that being said, we are going to wrap it up here from the Blaze Radio Studios
From Traver Cox.
Sebastian Friar.
I'm AJ Goncalves saying so long from the desert. We'll see you next week right here on Blaze Radio. Bye-bye.